like you to role play as entrepreneurs if that's possible. And my name is Ishir Vaidyanath, and I'll be presenting Elevate the Future.
All right, just let me get the timer.
Okay.
All right, you guys can start whenever.
Okay, great. So as you know, we're going to be presenting Elevate the Future. Let's start off with the problem. Our problem is that we've actually seen that there's minimal exposure to STEM education and a lack of real-world education when they get it. And this is a cyclical problem that increases as the poverty gap increases. Let me go a little bit more in depth. STEM and business education is drastically insufficient right now. Grade students have simply not learned enough about anything that they need to in the STEM areas. In fact, of fourth graders, their proficiency in science is only 38%, and their proficiency in math is 41%. This is even worse for more critical aspects such as computer science or business, which are even more crucial because they actually represent the total amount of what our growth sectors are going to be. And they're the largest growth sectors in the United States economy. Additionally, when we do have exposure to these areas, there's a lack of community connection. In order for students to really understand and learn, they need a relationship with the topics. They need to know how what they're learning is going to affect them and affect their communities. And right now, that's simply not possible. It's simply professors talking at the students and telling them exactly what's going on. But the final problem is that this is a cyclical impact that only gets worse with time. There's privilege right now that's required in order to learn these things, and it's not available for the poor, which means that when they grow up and they have their parents and they have children as well, these people wouldn't have as much money or the privilege either. Thus, the wealth gap only expands, and the education is able to solve only because of the fact that we see that there's actually going to be an interjection and we're able to help all students, whether they're poor or rich. So, thus, we have a proposed solution: Elevate the Future. Elevate the Future uses a three-pronged approach: Project Falcon, business modules, and partnered events, which I'll be going more deeply into in a little bit, to solve the aforementioned problems by bridging the educational gap and inspiring passions, allowing students to apply these passions and their skill sets back into their communities, and creating alternate revenues for struggling small businesses, especially in this time of the pandemic. So let's talk a little bit further about Project Falcon. Project Falcon is something that's supposed to be an extremely beneficial thing to teach students and help out businesses right now. What we see is that right now, many students, while they might learn web design, they don't get to apply it, and businesses don't necessarily have websites. Thus, Project Falcon connects these two by teaching students HTML, CSS, and the principles of design by Elevate the Future volunteers, and allowing them to apply these by creating a website for a real small business. Then all websites are polished and refined, and they're actually published right now to the actual website so that they can get an online source of revenue. Next, we can actually see that they can get many other things through Project Falcon as well. They get interest-free microloan assistance through Kiva, they get a free website and online store, and they get free crisis consulting due to the fact that Elevate the Future has partnered with many different people. And by August, over 35 businesses will receive this. Next, we have our business modules. These are interactive and inspiring modules created by the next generation of innovators and creators. There's 4 lessons, and in those lessons, students are exposed to the fundamentals of business, and they're basically taught how to develop their own businesses and even come up with their own idea and pitch it during that business plan. This program has been taught 60 times across 38 chapters in 17 states and 13 countries. And we finally have our partnered events. These partnered events are where we work in collaboration with people around the globe in order to expand awareness, education, and let people hear about our world-class speakers at the summits. We've held 10 partnered events to date with hundreds of people attending each. And our top class speakers, judges, and teachers are really great here because they're basically able to show how we can expand our vision to the rest of the world. We have one branch of us called Young Inquisitive Minds, which has impacted over 800 students and focuses on special needs. Additionally, we held a business competition named Cloud9 with over 150 participants, and we were able to give out thousands in prizes to some of the best ideas that we saw. So as you can see, Elevate the Future has a lot of traction already. With over 2,500 students impacted in 38 chapters and over 250 volunteers, there's nothing that can stop us now. And additionally, we've partnered with many people around the globe, including T-Mobile and Google, and even won an award from the Department of State in the United States of America. And you can see a little bit more and a few more of our sponsors throughout this on this current traction page. So what's our unique value? Well, our unique value comes in three main areas. First, we are completely run for youth and by youth, which means that we're better able to connect with the people that we're talking to, and we are actually able to make sure that we have an organization that is unparalleled with its ability to actually understand the education system. Second is our scale. No other organization in our position or in our niche actually has the scale we do with over 250 volunteers and 38 chapters. And finally, we have Project Falcon, which is a completely novel idea which allows the connection to the community that I talked about at the beginning and also helps these small businesses stay afloat in a way that nobody else can right now. So let's go over our demo really quickly. I'm just going to escape this, and you can see that our website right now is actually really, really strong. And we can see that we have, you can see a few different things, our locations, and you can also see all of our work that we've done with each of these tabs. Now let's go over some of our Project Falcon builds. For example, here we have MB's Place. This is a local eatery, local African-American owned eatery. And you can see that we have a menu and an ordering section so that we can actually have this business create a form of revenue during the COVID-19 crisis. And we have a couple more websites here. We have a couple more websites here, and we have a Chinese OCR website as well. Yeah. So I'll just present really quickly again. Yeah, you can also see some of the other traction that we've actually created during this time. We have our national and president board meeting with a picture here. And oh, by the way, all of those websites were coded in HTML and CSS and by our Elevate the Future volunteers and by the people that we are talking to. Then we have another demo, which is showing our live events across the globe in which we are able to teach many different people the strategies of business and computer science. We have our online demos and how we've actually adapted to the new COVID-19 crisis. And here are a few examples. And finally, you can see some pictures of our partnered events held across the globe. So what exactly do we need? Our funding goal is $10,000. And while we know that this might not actually be able to complete this funding goal, we're actually going to be able to see that while over time, we're hoping to be able to create over 100 small businesses with websites, which costs about $10. It costs about $100 per year since we hosted for 1 year. And thank you so much for listening. And do you have any questions?
Hi, this is Samina here. Thanks for your presentation, Ishir. It's impressive that you already have this organization. I had a couple of questions. One, how do you connect the small businesses with the volunteers and their specific communities? And two, what is your target age group? I saw pictures with some seem to be elementary school students, as well as, I mean, I'm assuming it's high schoolers, but just kind of how are you targeting?
Yeah, so our entire organization is high schoolers, but we specifically teach middle schoolers and elementary schoolers depending on the curriculum. So we have one curriculum is targeted towards elementary schoolers, which is a little bit more basic, and one curriculum targeted towards middle schoolers. And like when they create the business or whatever else during the middle schoolers, when they create the business, we give them advice. And if we really think that's a good idea, we can give them patent help and something else. And then you mentioned talking about how we connect the volunteers to the businesses. So we've actually called like hundreds of small businesses. This is how we originally started it. And we specifically tried to target African-American businesses during this time because we realized how crucial that is. And so that's how we first started the businesses. And then what we did is we had at the current time, we had a bunch of volunteers that were teaching students. And then eventually what we did is we whenever they gave like requirements or what they wanted on their business, we would feed this to the children and we'd show, hey, well, how do you think you can create this? And they would be able to create it. And then it was refined by the volunteers. But basically we have a volunteer base and we have a bunch of businesses and we are able to connect them because we had our network already built. But now we use the city of San Jose and many other different areas to get our businesses. We no longer just cold call hundreds of them.
Thanks.
As a judge, I want to ask a couple of questions as well. And Ishir, I think for me, what I see in terms of your solution is something similar to SDG 17 in terms of partnerships. I think it's very important that we can use existing technologies to help people in a community learn and partner with one another to achieve higher goals, such as workforce development. So in that way, Ayush, I think that this is an application that fits within the portfolio of a hackathon, because really what Ishir is doing is connecting people and they're using technology. I'd like to know, Ishir, how long you've been working on this network.
Yeah, so I think the idea for this really started around a year, not this December, but the December before, when we started just randomly teaching HTML and CSS to students. But then we really started actually increasing this and making it a lot larger last December, because we were able to create like a sort of the website and a sort of network that was able to build, rather than us just teaching students in elementary schools. And so I feel like I would say last December is where we really started making this a lot bigger and connected it. And Project Falcon started around a month ago, in which we were able to really connect a lot of businesses and create websites for them.
Are you able to quantify, and you don't have to have an answer to this, but are you able to quantify the amount of revenue that's been generated for these businesses based on bringing them online?
Yeah, so we don't actually have those numbers yet, because we've really only started this like a month ago, and it takes like a little while. So we've gotten these websites online in the past like 2 or 3 weeks. So we don't know how much revenue there is, unfortunately, but that's a really good statistic, and I'll be looking to get that in the future. I actually really like that idea.
Mm-hmm.
Hi, Ishir.
Hi.
I have a quick question. The 3 websites that you actually like showed, are there any that are actually like live today, that are in action, like a success?
Yeah. Actually, all 3 of those were live in action. If I look at this, all 3 of these are right now live in action, and they are actual URLs. This one's gradder.io. This one is ChineseOCR.com or something, and MB's Place is actually called MB's Place. And I feel like MB's Place best shows what we're trying to do, since it demonstrates exactly how we can create a small eatery. And most of our websites in the future are going to be like MB's Place, where they can see the menu and they can show everything that we have. All of these are actually live websites that they're using at the moment.
Ishir, how many people collaborate to create that?
So we have around a group of 4 young elementary schoolers that would work on this one website, and they work with 1 or 2 instructors in order to actually finalize it and teach them how they should be made.